Evolution, a deliberate yet subliminal process for all but humankind. We cannot wait.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for man.
He's on the move.
Coming up in this edition of Making History, the man responsible for enabling sailors to navigate safely. John Harrison invented a clock that would keep near perfect time on the high seas, therefore making it possible to plot longitude. Captain Cook, arguably the greatest explorer ever, sailed the Endeavour around the world and discovered Australia. Centuries later, a very different ship bearing the same name makes an equally impressive discovery. And it was conceived as an entry for a competition for Millennium Architecture in Britain. When the competition was scrapped, the designers were so convinced of its worth, they went ahead with the project anyway. In its short life since March 2000, the Millennium Wheel, better known as the London Eye, has become Britain's top tourist attraction and is second only to the Eiffel Tower in Europe. But first, it's June 2001, and British motor racing legends Stirling Moss and Jaguar cars are to be reunited at Le Mans this week, 50 years after Jaguar's first victory. Stirling Moss will drive the famous Jaguar C-Type in the inaugural Le Mans Legend race, which is being staged to celebrate the heritage of the 24-hour event. The combination of Stirling Moss and the Jaguar C-Type is a legendary one. This week, the partnership is being reformed for an historic event. 50 years ago, the British racing legend led a newly formed Jaguar team to race what was then a completely new and untried car in the 24-hour race. 3 Jaguars entered. They led for most of the way, before 2 pulled out with technical problems. The third went on to win at record speed, the first of a long line of successes for Jaguar in the French race. A C-Type won the race again in 1953. The C-Type is one of a cavalcade of classic Jaguars travelling to Le Mans to celebrate the greatest endurance race in the world. It's more than 10 years since the company last had a victory at Le Mans, but Stirling Moss and the legendary C-Type return to what is still Jaguar's favourite hunting ground.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
An unforgiving coastline. As recently as 200 years ago, treacherous waters like these claimed countless lives. In the days before sailors could measure their longitude, navigation was an inexact science. Ships were often lost at sea, entire fleets shipwrecked. The loss of some of the world's greatest ships demanded action. Navigation became the scientific challenge of the age. For one man, John Harrison, solving the longitude problem became a lifelong quest. His achievement, against all the odds, is hard to quantify. It was from this small village in northern England that John Harrison began that quest in the early 1700s. A carpenter who taught himself clockmaking, Harrison studied village life around him. He'd been a bell ringer at the local church since his boyhood, and this helped him to reassess pendulum theory, part of a sophisticated theory of horology that he developed single-handedly. Today, the only public monument to Harrison in the area is the local school which bears his name. The tribute is understated. Few remember that he challenged the greatest scientific institutions of his time and transformed the fortunes of the world's leading seafaring nation. Now, though, efforts are underway to ensure that Harrison's contribution to the measurement of time is more widely recognized. With actor Michael Gambon in the starring role, Britain's Channel 4 has made an epic television drama about Harrison, a man Gambon perceives as dogmatic and bullheaded. It was the 1995 publication of a book by American author Dava Sobel that first brought the real story of longitude to light. For centuries, map makers have used a system of grid lines indicating latitude and longitude to mark positions on the Earth. Navigators on 17th century ships knew from measuring the angle between the midday sun and the horizon how far north or south they lay. But their east-west position, their longitude, was perilously elusive. Longitude is a function of time, and what you really need to know is time back home at the same instant as you refer to your local time. 17th century pendulum clocks kept time accurately enough, but they couldn't withstand the motion of a ship or the variations in temperature encountered on long sea voyages. In 1714, public pressure forced the British Parliament to offer a reward for whoever could discover a way of measuring longitude. The prize money was £20,000, worth £6 million today. It prompted a rush of pamphlets promoting oddball ideas. One scheme involved keeping on ship a dog previously wounded by a knife held in London. Plunging the knife into special powder at midnight caused the dog on board ship to yelp at noon. Hogarth's etching shows longitude lunatics searching for weird solutions inside the walls of an asylum. Finding longitude became known as the work of madmen. Yet with sailors able to tell the time on board ship from the Earth's rotation around the sun, Harrison knew that the answer lay in being able to make an accurate comparison with the time at home. An error in the clock of 1 minute would put a ship 60 miles off course. Although in the early 18th century clocks had not reached that kind of accuracy, one of Harrison's first machines still keeps time above the stables at Brocklesby Park near his hometown. It was installed in 1722. The last clock he made before beginning the longitude quest. Harry Johnson, the estate's carpenter, is responsible for its upkeep. He's been winding it for about 35 years, and over the years, the joints haven't moved at all. In this clock, Harrison used a unique mechanism known as the grasshopper escapement. The wooden wheels are carved out of lignum vitae, a tropical hardwood with natural resins. It never needs lubrication. On the set of the Channel 4 production, Harrison's clocks are the true stars of the show. Clockmaker and Harrison expert Andrew King is acting as props consultant. He believes that the wooden clocks Harrison made are fundamental to his life's work. It was after demonstrating his ideas to eminent clockmaker George Graham, a member of the Longitude Board, that Harrison received encouragement and development money to make a series of chronometers to be used at sea. H1 was his first, one of the most remarkable marine chronometers of all time. Linked balance arms overcame the problem of motion. The use of brass and steel overcame the temperature problem, and he continued to use wheels of lignum vitae. The Royal Observatory at Greenwich houses H1 and the rest of Harrison's chronometers. After H1 failed to win the Longitude Prize by a short margin, he moved quickly through H2 and H3. He spent 19 years improving H3, convinced it was the sea clock that would win him the prize. Then, in an extraordinary change of direction, he realized he should try to improve the balance inside the pocket watches of the day. This was his masterstroke. On a voyage to the West Indies, H4's error was just 5 seconds, more than enough to win the prize. To the Board of Longitude, though, its very accuracy was suspicious. They prevaricated and called it a fluke. In the end, though, they did agree to give him half the prize money. Harrison wasn't satisfied because he wanted not only the full prize money, but the recognition that he'd solved the problem. Harrison was granted the full prize just 2 years before he died. Accurate navigation had arrived, enabling ships to exploit the world's greatest trading opportunities. Now, as then, the secret of knowing where you are anywhere in the world is simply knowing what time it is. The first Endeavour was commanded by one of the greatest sea captains that ever lived, Captain James Cook. Cook, the very name dominates an age of world exploration. At the helm of the Endeavour, he sailed across the Atlantic Ocean, hugging the coastline of South America around the treacherous Horn and into the vast Pacific Ocean. The voyage of Endeavour took him to the island of Tahiti, then on to New Zealand, before making his way to the warm waters of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. Finally, Cook charted a course around the tip of Africa, back into the Atlantic and home to England. It was a voyage that lasted almost 3 years. Born the son of a farmer, Cook aspired to a career normally reserved for the privileged upper class. He worked hard and spent much of his free time studying navigation, astronomy and physics. Without a doubt, his knowledge of these subjects led to his overwhelming success as an explorer. And just like Cook's great Endeavour, the shuttle Endeavour was built to set forth into the great unknown. Although she may look similar to the first 4 shuttles built before her, Endeavour was the first to pioneer new technology that's still used today. These modifications included a drogue parachute for safer landings and improvements that allow the shuttle to fly longer missions of exploration. Cook's Endeavour was also modified before she set sail. She started out as a short-range coal-hauling ship named Earl of Pembroke. She was then refurbished for longer voyages and rechristened Endeavour. Then in August 1768, Cook sailed her from Plymouth, England, to begin one of history's greatest voyages. Along the way, the scientists with him would observe and document new plant and animal life they encountered. Whenever NASA launches a shuttle into space, astronauts also have more than one job or objective to carry out. While exploring the uncharted Australian coastline, the Endeavour ran aground on the Great Barrier Reef. But Cook had a skilled and ingenious crew who were able to repair the ship and enable the voyage to continue to its successful conclusion. Shuttle Endeavour's crew ran into problems too when they first tried to capture a satellite. This task was easily performed on Earth, but in space it was a different matter. But in a case of history repeating itself, the crew of the Space Shuttle Endeavour was able to devise a new plan of action and successfully completed their primary mission objective. And like Cook's crew, the shuttle crew also had secondary objectives, from life science experiments which test the human body to working outside in the payload bay, perfecting construction techniques in preparation for Space Station Freedom, the International Space Station. So, like Cook, they're blazing a trail for those who will follow. Shuttle flights carry as many as 21 cameras in order to show researchers back on Earth their experiments in action, or to test the space hardware, or give oceanographers a new view of the oceans and geologists a different view of the Earth. And the beauty of the Earth from space sparks the imagination of everyone. Astronauts can send images from space as they happen, via satellite, but they also bring back a lot of pictures. In Cook's day, there were no cameras, but he still needed to document the things he saw, so he had two artists on his endeavour to draw the landscapes, people, plants and animals that they encountered. The modern-day Endeavour has a crew of 7, a commander and a pilot who fly the shuttle, and 5 mission specialists who perform microgravity experiments, do spacewalks, operate the shuttle's robotic arm and deploy satellites. Of course, with such a small crew, they all have to help each other out and share the workload. For example, while some of the astronauts are spacewalking outside the orbiter, the rest of the crew are all busy with jobs that make their trip outside possible. So there's a lot of coordination between each crew member. On the shuttle, 7 people have to live and work in a volume equal to half the inside space of a school bus. The first Endeavour had a crew of 90 on a ship that wasn't equipped to carry half that many. This meant they had to make use of every square inch of space, just as shuttle crews do today. The typical food on a long voyage, such as Cook's, consisted mainly of salt, pork and bread, with a little rum thrown in. Because of diets like that, many sailors of the day got scurvy, a disease caused by a lack of vitamin C. But things were different on Cook's ship. He loaded Endeavour with as much meat, fruit, vegetables and onions as it could carry, and because of that, he didn't lose a single member of his crew to scurvy. Health and hygiene is vital aboard the newer Endeavour too, so if one of the crew members becomes ill, 2 others are trained as medical officers. Using the shuttle medical kit and the medical checklist, the crew medical officers can treat problems as simple as a headache or something as serious as a heart attack. One definite advantage the shuttle crew has is climate control. Their life support system keeps the crew compartment at a comfortable 25 degrees Celsius. On Cook's voyage, Endeavour sailed through the frigid waters off the tip of South America and to the tropics near Tahiti, all without air conditioning or heaters. To help navigate the shuttle, it's pointed up at the stars. A device called a star tracker is used in much the same way as Cook used his sextant. The star tracker allows the pilot to accurately determine the orbiter's attitude in order to complete delicate manoeuvres. During his voyage, Cook discovered and charted New Zealand, proving that it was actually 2 islands. He charted the eastern and northern coasts of Australia, and he circumnavigated the globe, bringing back a wealth of scientific information about the flora and fauna of that part of the world. He overcame great odds and obstacles to make his dreams come true. With hard work, study and perseverance, Cook became one of history's greatest explorers. Today, a new voyage of Endeavour is keeping the spirit of exploration alive for us all. In 1988, school children from across America were asked to help name their newest space shuttle orbiter. One of their requirements was to name it after a great sea vessel or scientific exploration. Was there any wonder they named it Endeavour? Dawn over the River Thames, and the skyline is marked by London's newest icon. The Millennium Wheel, affectionately known as the London Eye, opens in March 2000 to support and scepticism. The skeptics have melted away, and the Eye has a busy day ahead. An army of cleaners start work at dawn, giving each of the 32 capsules a thorough going over, inside and out, to ensure a smudge-free view. The high-quality glass deters dirt from sticking, and only deionized, purified water is used to avoid streaking and ensure no harmful discharge enters the Thames. Everything is perfect for the first visitors at 9 a.m. They board their bubble and float above the capital to be wowed with the best views of London. At 135 metres high, the Eye is the tallest structure in London open to the public. The view is distinct and unimpeded, an uninterrupted panoramic view for 25 miles. The wheel's architects and designers, husband and wife team Julia Barfield and David Marks, wanted their monument to the millennium to be a celebratory structure that people could participate in and find uplifting. As the sun gets higher and the sky brighter, more people are drawn to the eye. It's the busiest time of day and crowd management strategies are needed. The London Eye is to elevate more than 4 million people above London in the first 15 months of its opening. Its busiest day in the first year will see 20,000 visitors take a ride. The breathtaking views of London seem to enhance a special occasion. Tonight, Carl Goodmanson, visiting from Australia, has been surprised with a 30th birthday treat. Julia and David are proud of overcoming one of the most difficult engineering problems of making sure none of the eye's structure spoilt the view. As night draws in and the day trippers go home, the wheel doesn't stop turning. It's time for maintenance and safety checks. But in 3 of the other pods on the wheel, it's lights, camera and action. This is the creative group who are making an Audi car commercial. They hit on the idea of promoting the A2's lightweight structure. A heavier car would have breached the eye's weight restrictions. Special arrangements have to be made to get the car on board. The doors of the pod are removed to maneuver the car in position with a hair-raising margin of 1.5 millimeters on either side. The sight of a car lodged in a pod on the London Eye causes a stir with visitors during the week's shooting. In the same week, both the Eye and the Audi are to win prizes in their own categories in the Design and Art Directors Awards. London's Millennium Wheel has now become part of the landscape. It's a familiar view from many areas of the capital, and while it only has planning permission to be on the Thames South Bank for 5 years, it has an engineering lifespan of 50. The London Eye is one of the most imaginative and audacious projects of the new millennium. It's 7 years in the making, delivered innovative solutions to different design and construction challenges. The result is a spectacular new landmark that's been lovingly adopted by one of the world's most famous capital cities.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.